Hey, it's Tom Sinclair, the chief idiot. You're on Streaming Idiots. So glad to be with you today. So sorry to have missed you the last couple of weeks. I was out of town and away from the studio. My dad, we got a call from the medical personnel, and they said, gather all the family. And so we dutifully gathered, and he rallied. So we all went home after a couple of days, of course, and then same thing happened again. Gather all the family. So we gathered, and he rallied and got better and better and better, and so came home Sunday. So we're back at home and back ready to produce some more shows. We missed 2 weeks worth of shows. I apologize for that. For those that tuned in last week and tuned in the week before, I saw the chat room that y'all had kind of logged in and said you were there, and I appreciate your faithfulness, and sorry to have let you down. Believe me, I would much rather have been here chatting with you guys. So anyway, Dad's doing much better, and who knows how long any of us have in this world. So we're keeping a suit bag packed, and you just never know. But he's had a very long and very full and rich life, and we're ready to celebrate that whenever it reaches its end. We'll be sad, but we'll be joyful at the same time. Anyway, it's good to be back, and appreciate you guys tuning in, those of you that are live in the chat room today, chatting up a storm in our earlier show. We do that VidBlaster Guy show before this one, and so they were there for that show, and we had some good discussions, especially about church streaming. Lots of discussions about that. We'll talk about some of that in just a minute. The idea behind this show is that Streaming Idiots, I make all the mistakes so that you don't have to. Now, you're going to make mistakes. That's not a guarantee that you won't make mistakes if you watch this show. But my hope is that you'll learn more and that you'll be able to avoid some of the pitfalls, some of the dead ends that I've bumped into over the years as we talk about it. We've done the VidBlaster Guy show for 3 years, starting next month. In July 2012 was our first show. And so we've done a ton of shows in that, and I think about 1.5 years on Streaming Idiots, and so we've learned an awful lot. Before that, I was involved in streaming sports, both for the local high school, football and soccer mostly, and also for the community, doing a lot of freelance work. That was, again, mostly soccer tournaments and things like that. And so probably streamed, I don't know, maybe 200 or 300 soccer games, and have done probably, I don't know, 120, 130 VidBlaster Guy shows, and then maybe about 50 or 60 of the Streaming Idiot shows. So I've done a few shows and have learned a lot in the process, and always happy to share my wisdom, but more importantly to share my ignorance, because we all start from a point of ignorance and we move towards knowledge, and with that we move towards wisdom. We can get knowledge. I mean, if somebody could just download it into our brain, we would know a bunch of facts, but it's the wisdom that helps us interpret those facts so that we keep from making mistakes in the future. Interesting case in point. Got a call from one of my clients. Actually, it wasn't a call, it was an email from one of my clients. We built a pair of beastly PCs for a racetrack up in Michigan. And they wanted 8 high-definition capture in each PC. One of them would be used for instant replay, and one of them would be used for live action switching and graphics. And so, worked out the specs on that, built them, and they've been in use, I guess, about 1 year. Got an email, maybe a couple of months ago, that there had been a lightning strike at the racetrack. And for some reason, these guys had not been protected, or maybe it just jumped through the surge protection. I've had that happen on 2 separate occasions where PCs have been fried even though they were on surge protection. And all the equipment that I build has a 3-year warranty from me, parts and labor. All you have to do is get it back to me. But it obviously doesn't include things like lightning strikes. And so they were kind of counseling with me on, what's the best way to go about troubleshooting the problem? What's the best way to go about fixing the problem? And I think one of the PCs they decided had a bad motherboard because of the lightning, and another one, or maybe it was a power supply, one of the two. And the other one they thought had a bad video card because of the lightning. And they were able to get the first one up and running pretty quickly. They replaced the video card in the second one, but no joy, just dead screen. And we're trying all sorts of tweaks and tricks, and finally we're about to give up. And in fact, had given up and had said, okay, Tom, we're going to send it back to you. And I had told him, I'll fix it for you for free. I mean, you pay for the parts, but I'll supply the labor and track it down and find it, because it looked like it was going to be kind of a hairy problem. And they really needed it back fast and didn't have time to wait to send it off somewhere where they'd rather send it back to the doctor that birthed it. So they were getting ready to... Excuse me, goodness. They were getting ready to ship it back, and I'd give them some pretty specific shipping instructions because it had a tower cooler in it that needs to be supported when it's shipped, and so they had to take the top off and wrap that up with a bunch of bubble wrap and things like that. And as they were beginning that process, they discovered that when they installed the video card, they never plugged in the monitor. So for all the agony and angst that they had going through, they didn't plug in the monitor, and that's, of course, that's why the video card didn't work, because the monitor wasn't plugged in. They plugged it in and it worked just fine, and so everybody was happy, and everybody was wiser. There is something in human nature when it comes to troubleshooting a problem, and I fall for this trick every time. I'm always assuming it's the worst it could possibly be. Oh my God, it's the motherboard. Oh my gosh, it's a hard drive. Oh my gosh, and I fell for that same trick. Well, not a trick; it's a mind trick. Is what it is. Probably about 6 or 8 years ago, I had a printer. And I will name it. It was an Epson printer, and it was not working. And no matter what I did, it would not work. And so I called Epson, and I was pretty darn ticked off at this point, because I'm a smart computer guy, and if I can't fix it, by gosh, there's something wrong with it. And I explained to them what was going on, all the stuff I'd tried. They really didn't care. They had a tech support protocol that they were going to follow come hell or high water. And it started with, Mr. Sinclair, is it plugged in? Well, of course it's plugged in. What kind of idiot do you think I am? Mr. Sinclair, we would like you to verify. We're not trying to offend you, but we'd like to verify that this is plugged in. I said, okay. Obviously, we're not moving forward anywhere until I check it, so I'm going to check it. Boy, did I feel like an idiot. Did I ever feel like an idiot? And fortunately, they were very gracious. And they said, Mr. Sinclair, we run into this problem all the time. Of course, it was not plugged in. And I don't know how it got unplugged, but so that's the wisdom that I would pass along to you today, if you don't get anything else out of this show, is when it comes time and things don't work right, assume the simplest stuff first, because that's number one. That's probably going to be the easiest thing to check, and I'll bet you at least 50% of the time that's where the problem is. I remember a while back, I was driving down the road, my car stopped running. I was like, oh man, I just know it's the fuel injection system that's gone bad, blah, 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 blah. And I was calling up somebody to come pick me up, and they said, well, do you think you might have run out of gas? Yeah, I did run out of gas. So anyway, learn from my mistakes. Try the simple solutions first, because they may just work. May just work. So there's your little piece of wisdom today from the Streaming Idiot. Try the simple stuff first. That's one of the reasons why I like to keep things pretty simple in my setup, because simple setups are easy to troubleshoot. Complex setups are not easy to troubleshoot. in the pre-show right before this show, I was trying to get the little intro you saw just a second ago lined up, and there's an outro that goes with it. And it's not something fancy, and it's not something long-term. Martin Kay built it for me just to sort of use as a stopgap until we can get something long-term. And I like the way the jaws open and close. That's pretty cool. So I had 3 weeks ago, the last time I did a show, everything worked fine, but I didn't save my profile. I didn't save the, in vMix, we're using vMix 15 today for this show. I didn't save the preset, or I didn't save that particular setup, screen setup as a preset. So when I come in today, you know, it's the way that it was the last time I saved a preset, which was who knows how long. And so my outro, my closing, the jaws didn't work. I mean, the jaws didn't close in on me. All of a sudden the screen went blank, and then the jaws went in, and so things weren't configured properly. And it took me a while to, of course, I was looking at all the hard solutions first. And really what it was that I said I needed to create a virtual input of this particular shot right here, so that when it came time, so I could add to it all the other stuff, and it would work. So anyway, it was interesting. It was interesting to get that going. So that's the story on that. And I think if I click this one button right here, I'm liable to do that outro by accident. So I'm not going to do that. So look for the simple stuff first. Look for the simple stuff first. And if you can, keep your setups simple, because in the long run, simple will be easier to fix, because there just won't be lots of different options. On this last show, we talked about and we demonstrated the dynamic overlay update ability in vMix. Now that's a feature that has been recently added to VidBlaster, and so we talked about that 3 weeks ago too. And it's really cool. Basically, if you have an overlay, a PNG file, if you go in and you update that file and then save it again over the other one in VidBlaster and vMix, it will update itself. And so if we had, oh my goodness, I did it right here. Look, I updated this one right here with the second, Tom Sinclair the second, and I forgot to change it back. That is a hoot. I did that on another computer, so I can't change it back today. So that's a great example of just playing around with it. And I took the same file that I had, saved it again, and we end up with this little extra 2 right there. What I found out later was that doesn't work for everybody in vMix. Apparently, and I need to start with the simple solutions first, but for some people on some PCs, it does not update dynamically in vMix. And so what I was doing with this was I was using my old Dell dual-core laptop and updating it on the laptop on the laptop's hard drive, and then seeing if it popped up. And then I said, okay, well, I'm going to put it out in Dropbox, because it did work. I'm going to put it out in Dropbox and see if it works in Dropbox. And this was the file in Dropbox. So that's how this one got changed. And in all my furor pre-show, didn't even notice that. So these are examples of the kind of stuff you don't want to do. Check your graphics before every show and make sure you haven't accidentally done something to them that will make them not work the way you wanted to. And so I've tried the vMix thing on 3 different PCs. It works fine on all my PCs, but I got a call from somebody the other day that said, hey, I'm trying to do what you're doing, and it doesn't work. And I thought, okay, well, he's probably not doing it right. That's probably what it is. That's the simple solution. He just doesn't know how to do it. So we walked through the process that he was using. Turns out he knows a heck of a lot more about graphics software than I do. And, it should have worked. And he would delete the file and then replace it, and then, of course, it would work. But that's not the same as dynamically updating it. The benefit to having it dynamically update, as we proved 3 weeks ago, is, number one, I don't have to do anything with it. If I have somebody that's helping me, and Martin Kay at Zen Video in Manchester, England, was doing that. He was taking the lower third and basically changing it and then he would send it to my Dropbox because I'd given him permission to access my Dropbox. And then all of a sudden, my lower third would change. And in fact, we counted it off, and I think it took like 2 seconds for it to happen between the time he saved it in England and the time it changed on my screen here in the United States. So it was pretty cool, pretty neat feature, and I would think something like that would really work well, especially in a sporting environment. So you could have a statistician that wasn't necessarily in the press box. They could be anywhere else in the world and doing stats, and then work up a graphic on the stats, and every time there was a timeout or a break in the action, you could flash that graphic up there that would have the updated stats in it. So that was the beauty of it, and in fact, the person I was talking to a couple of weeks ago, they wanted to use it as exactly that. They wanted to use it as part of their sports broadcast, where somebody could update the stats and the scores and those kinds of things kind of dynamically. But it wasn't working for him. And I thought it was him. And then kind of simultaneous to that, somebody out in the internet sphere, cybersphere, saw that show and tried it, and it didn't work for them either. And so they posted on the vMix forum that, Tom Sinclair's done this show, and it seems to work well for him, but I can't get it to work for me. What would it be? And a couple of people had responded to him there, and then I responded to him and said I can't figure it out, but the fact that it's happening now for 2 different people in 2 different places means to me that it probably is not it's not operator error. Probably it may have something to do with the software that you're using to make the change, although I don't think that's the case. It may have something to do with vMix. Most certainly that's the case because it works for one vMix but not for another. But I don't think it's a vMix bug. I think, and if there's anybody in the chat that wants to come on and give me some feedback on this, I'd love to hear it. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, oh, by the way, subscribe, please. If you're watching us on YouTube, please leave a comment if you've got an idea about this. I think there's something in the Windows file system, however I've got it configured, that allows vMix to see that it updates, and it doesn't allow other people to see that it updates. Maybe a sharing, some sort of tick box that I've ticked to allow files to be shared or files not to be hidden or something like that, that now gives vMix permission or the ability to see that the file has somehow changed. Now, when I looked at the files 3 weeks ago, and in fact, I was waiting to see. I was actually looking at my my Windows Explorer at the files to see when they would update. And doggone if it didn't update here, but the file name, which of course is not going to change, but the date, time, and size all stayed the same. And so the date was like, 3 days ago when I created the file. Martin was updating it today, that particular day, but yet the date didn't change and the time didn't change. Now, if I would refresh F5, that window, it then would update. It then would show me that it had changed, but it did not prior to that. So that's an interesting, I won't call it a bug, but I'll call it an idiosyncrasy. Somewhere something is different in my system than it is in those other folks' system. So the one thing I'd love to try is to see if it would dynamically update in VidBlaster for them. And if it didn't dynamically update in VidBlaster for them, but it did for me, that would definitely be something that's either in the, I would think in the operating system, in how that particular computer is configured to save or to share information about files and the changes in files. That's going to be a simple problem that I think has a complex answer. But then again, I've been wrong before, so you never know. Could be wrong again. So if you have come to the show hoping for a solution to our dynamic overlay issue, I don't have it yet, but I'm working on it, and I've got some other good folks working on it too. And so I think eventually we're going to figure out, it's a little idiosyncrasy somewhere, a little tick box that didn't get ticked. So that's the update on that. A couple other updates I want to bring to you. Since I've been out for 2 weeks, and I am self-employed, which also means if I don't work, I don't eat, I'm a little behind on... Actually, this is not my full-time gig. I am not a full-time streaming idiot. I would like to be, but I would definitely starve. But so I haven't done any of the things that I promised I would do. Both of my PC builds are sort of gathering dust at the moment because I haven't had time to get back to them. We're doing a portable PC build. We found an old 20-year-old portable PC and on eBay for $150, something like that. We stripped out all the innards except for the keyboard and the monitor, which were the parts that I wanted. And we're going to rebuild it from the inside. We ran into a problem that the back panel for the motherboard doesn't quite fit on this one, so I have to use the Dremel tool to carve out a spot, and that's going to take some time to get it just right. So we've kind of gathered some dust on that project. And then using spare parts here in the studio, we kind of built a Frankenstein PC that's a test bed for the AJA Kona card that we got shipped from AJA. Thank you, Eric Norrell and the guys at AJA. And we've got that in. That PC is operational. Of course, it doesn't have all the piece parts put back together. It looks like a Frankenstein. And it works beautifully. That card is a dream. My hope is if I can get the time between now and next week that we'll use that PC to stream this show. And so I can demonstrate. I guess I can demonstrate. I don't know. Maybe I just need to take a video and show you the video of how it works. Anyway, it's a slick little card. It's 4 ports of high definition video input using those little mini SDI connectors and a really cool snake that attaches to the whole thing. So it's pretty neat. I look forward to showing that off hopefully next week. And that is the other PC build that is kind of stalled at the moment. And we had hoped to do a summer shootout of the software switchers, VidBlaster, vMix, and Wirecast. And we're putting together the pieces on that, and then that's got shelved. So my apologies on that. They may end up having to be a fall project. We'll see. But my goal was, personally, to be able to get to know each one of those 3 softwares pretty intimately so that as clients who want to do streaming approach me with their particular set of needs, that I can advise them as to which of those 3 softwares is going to be the best to fit their current need and their future need. A lot of times folks will, not a lot of times, every week, somebody will call or email and say, this is what we want to do, what's the best for it? And so I'd like to definitely be able to answer that question. I was talking with somebody the other day, and we spent a lot of time talking about hardware. And I said, what software are you thinking about? Well, when he told me the software, I said, okay, well, we need to talk about different hardware because that particular type of software needs, we were talking about vMix. I said that particular software really does need to have this type of specific video card in it because it counts on the video card to do some of the work, not just the CPU. So those are the kind of the ins and outs that it's good to know about these programs so that if you're talking to me, we get off on the right foot. We make sure that we reduce the number of rookie mistakes that we could possibly do. So it's nice not to make those rookie mistakes if we possibly can. So we are behind the 8 ball and hoping to get out in front of the 8 ball here before too much longer. Of course, if I have to make another trip, that's going to take us out. Do want to make one comment before we close out the show on the new instant replay from vMix. If you're a sports guy, this is slicker than snuff. I mean, and not near so dusty. It will just knock your socks off. It's smooth. It's easy to use. It's only available in the 4K version of vMix, which gives you one channel of instant replay. Or if you get the vMix Pro, it has 4 channels of instant replay. And I've already been approached by a couple of folks who are interested in basically a custom box, a custom PC that would be used just for the instant replay. And so if they're talking about a 4-camera shoot, 4 cameras coming into this box that would all have slow motion instant replay ability, and then 1 or even 2 outputs from that to a second PC that would be the streaming PC that would mix the same 4 live cameras with either 1 or 2 inputs that would be the instant replay. So that's pretty exciting, and I think we're going to find that this software is going to be used more and more. Simply just for that, I mean, the vMix Pro will be used simply as an instant replay machine, and we may end up seeing a vMix branded PC come out that is just instant replay, similar to the the TriCaster 3Play or something like that. That is just an instant replay machine. Anyway, that's going to be fun to watch as we see those things coming forward. The springtime shows seem to have wrapped up. The Streaming Media East, I think, is come and gone. The Infocom down in Orlando ended last week. The big broadcasting show out in Las Vegas has come and gone, and so things are kind of getting back to normal in the industry. And the reason I mentioned that is because a lot of the calls that I've been making to folks to say, hey, would you like to send us some products to test, and would you like to come on our show and talk about them, have been, yeah, we'll talk to you after these shows. We were very, very blessed to have Martin Sinclair take a break between some of the shows and come on as a guest about a month ago. If you haven't seen that, you want to go back and see that on our YouTube channel, Eastern Shore Broadcasting. It was a fascinating interview and very, very conscientious man with obviously a lot of integrity. So it's been fun to make that acquaintance. But we're looking forward to other folks from some of the other outfits. Now that they have kind of done their duty and done their showtime, that they can spend some time and maybe spend some time with us on this show and talk about what they're doing. I'm hoping that one of those is going to be Eric with AJA as we talk about his capture card, because I think I've probably exceeded the agreed upon borrowing time on that card, so I need to get it back to him or else buy it. And it's mighty tempting to buy it because it's sweet, but what would I use it for? Why would I need 4 cameras in here? It's essentially a one camera shoot. So if you've got some ideas on that, folks that you would like to see on the show, or products that you'd like to review, or if you'd like to send me a product to review, by all means, fire it over to me. You can send it to tom@streamingidiots.com. or send an inquiry there, or go to our website, Eastern Shore Broadcasting, and there's a contact form there where you can send an email to me, or even get my phone number and give me a call. Believe it or not, the phone number on that website, probably shouldn't tell you this, but that's a cell number, so it rings right to me. So if you want to chat, I had somebody called at 10 o'clock last night, and I obviously didn't answer the phone because it didn't look like anybody I knew, but he left a message and said, hey, if you're up and you want to chat, I'm out in Arizona. It's 2 hours earlier for me. If you're a night owl, let's chat. Well, I called him this morning, but nevertheless, it was fun to get a message like that, so I appreciate that, Brian. Let's see. I think we've got all of our ducks in a row there. Yep, I think we do. Well, I appreciate you guys taking time to hang out with me. For those of you that are watching live, there's going to be a brief reception after this show is is finished, Dave and Jim have got some refreshments together, and we're having a party in honor of Tommy. So if you're watching live, you want to hang around for that. There'll be streamers and hats and all sorts of cool stuff. Otherwise, we will see you guys in a week. Thanks for watching. Can't wait to see you next time. Take care. I'll be back. Hey, it worked! You just never know.